Za'Nii is 8 years old now. I first noticed something was really wrong with her when she was about 2 years old. She would always, favor her right side. She would always complain about her neck hurting. So we ended up taking her um, to multiple doctors in Freeport, Illinois. And when I took her to the hospital, they didn't even want to really do anything. They just was like, it's muscle spasms. Just take her to physical therapy. She'll outgrow it. So I took her to physical therapy for about a year and a half, and I didn't see any improvement. Um, so I took her back, and I literally begged them to do X-ray, MRI, something. So they ended up doing a X-ray first, and they it came back normal. So they were just like, just keep an eye on her. But I ended up taking her to her primary doctor because nothing was helping. It was just, it had gotten worse actually. She would like always trip every time she ran or even walked. She would always trip over her own feet. So I took her to her primary doctor, and he basically was like, I can see something's wrong with her, but I'm not 100% sure. So he recommended us to go to a spine specialist in Chicago. We went there a couple times, spent months going there. They did x-rays, they did blood work, CT scans, everything, and everything kept coming back normal. So the neurologist was like, there's one other thing we could do, and that's an MRI. So we ended up going to Lurie's Children's Hospital downtown Chicago, where they did the MRI, and it came back that she had a brain tumor that traveled down her spinal cord. And so they admitted her into the hospital. They did biopsy. That came back not cancer. So after a week of being home after that biopsy, she ended up completely stopped walking. I mean, it was like her mind was telling her to walk, but her legs wouldn't move. And so I took her back to the hospital in Chicago where they did another MRI, and it came back that the tumor had grew more aggressively. So they ended up doing a emergency surgery to remove the pressure from her spine. And after that, it left her with no feeling from the waist down. And so we spent almost 2 years going back and forth to Chicago every week for doctor's appointments and more procedures. She even spent 2.5 months in a rehab after surgery. Um, and, don't get me wrong, Freeport schools were doing everything that they could to make her comfortable, and they were really good to her. She had a great medical team in Chicago, but I felt like there was more that could be done, and she needed better health care. So I just woke up one day and I was like, you know what? I'm going to just, with no destination as of where we were going to stay, I packed my babies up. I drove to Minnesota. The first couple days we spent we stayed in a hotel for like the first 3 days, and then we ended up going to a shelter. Um, and at first I'm like, I don't really want to go to no shelter. What if my kids, be like, well, why you bring me here? But they loved it. I learned the value of life staying there, and I learned the value of money. And it made me and my kids close. I mean, me and my kids were already close, but it made us really close. And since we've been here, Za'Nii has been more outgoing. I have really seen a big change in her. She has learned a lot about herself. I have learned a lot about myself. And I just, I'm glad I came. And like I said, at the end of the day, I was doing what I needed to do to get better health care for my daughter. So when these kids complain about something, try your best to get to the bottom of it, because I know some kids be like, this hurts, or, just to get attention. But you have every right to go to these doctors and make them listen to you. And at the end of the day, I know Black people get the shorter end of the stick. But don't let that doctor tell you ain't nothing wrong with your child, because it could be something seriously wrong. Um, But the reason why I made this video is because I know a lot of people come up to me and be like, you know, what's wrong with your daughter? Or people back at home, I'll be like, well, I didn't know, you know, this and that. And, you know, and I'm very vocal about my situation and my daughter's situation. I'm not scared to tell anybody, or I'm not ashamed to tell anybody about what she goes through or what I go through. But if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to hit me up in my inbox, or, you know, comment below. But yeah, at the end of the day, you are your child's mother. You have to stand up for your child. So don't ever let nobody tell you ain't nothing wrong with your child. But like I said, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.